So Oxford, get ready. That's going to be coming into your direction soon. But in the meantime, the tornado warning for Tunica, Panola, Coahoma County, and a portion of Tate County, that's going to be in place until about 8:15 this evening. Eric, what are you looking at over there?
So just kind of keep an eye on the different, we have two different warnings that are in place here, the one being the tornado warning and the other being the severe thunderstorm warning. And I'm always curious, just kind of the thought process within that, just kind of seeing the overlap that we have. And it looks like it literally is about the same general area that is under the severe thunderstorm warning as well as the tornado warning. But as Ron did note here, this does include a few different counties here across the Mid-South, with Coahoma County being the most impactful one right now, or the county that has the best chance of seeing that tornado around right now. It does include also Phillips County, into Quitman County, portions of Tunica County, and over into Tate as well as Panola counties here. So this is scooting itself to the northeast at about 45 to 50 miles per hour. To put a loop on this here, you'll see that the pop-up right there as far as that polygon indicating where the tornado warning does engulf, and that does include Helena, West Helena, as well as into portions of Clarksdale as well, especially to the north. So if you know anybody that is traveling, whether it be north on Highway 51 here or north on Highway 49 for that matter, from Clarksdale, say towards Tunica, or maybe, hey, you're trying to get lucky and go from Memphis down to Tunica, not the best idea to do that since we do have that tornado warning in play here across the Mid-South. Not seeing anything popping up here that's catching my attention with our tornado index button. That is pretty tame for right now, and it's still a good idea to check up on some of those storms that are further ahead and off to the east here into portions of Fayette County. We don't have any severe warnings. Let me point that out here as far as severe thunderstorm or tornado warnings here across the Mid-South, aside from that one cell that is down to the southwest here into Coahoma, Tunica, Quitman, as well as Panola, Tate, and into Phillips counties. But at times we do still see some stronger winds and stronger storms that are embedded within portions of these cells across the Mid-South here. So giving you just an overview as to what we have going on here throughout the Mid-South, that line of showers and storms that has engulfed all of northeast Arkansas and is moving itself through western Tennessee as well as northern portions of Mississippi. It is racing to the east here at about 50 miles per hour here across the Mid-South. It is getting a little bit closer to Bolivar, excuse me, as well as into Marshall County, such as Holly Springs, and it is getting closer to Arkabutla Lake as well. But for the time being, and worthwhile to point out too, those green lines that you do see on your screen, that do include Memphis as well as Munford and up to the north into Ripley as well as Mississippi County, all Crittenden County, eastern portions of Cross and Poinsett counties. That is where there are flash flood warnings, and those are until 10:15 this evening. But the big thing that we are keeping an eye on, at least for the time being, is that tornado warning that does include portions of the Mississippi Delta here. So Chief Meteorologist Ron Childers, of course, we've been on here. We are on here first as far as giving you guys that first alert with this tornado warning that does include portions of the Mid-South. I know you're just kind of taking a peek at different things. Is there anything really kind of catching your eye for the time being?
No, and I tell you what, this is really, I think what we're seeing are basically just little spin-ups along this main line itself. And I alluded to this earlier as we were tracking the storm system itself. We've got a strong wind coming out of the south, all right? Then we've got this whole line moving off to the east. But then as that southerly flow starts to interject with that easterly progression, you start to get a little spin in the atmosphere, and I think that's what we're seeing there. Again, very difficult to determine what's going on there because we're at a good distance from the radar site itself, and typically you get outside of 75 miles from the radar site, it is very difficult to detect tornadoes because you go higher into the atmosphere. So the farther away from the radar you go, the higher you are. So we're hitting that at a pretty good distance, and I believe we're likely hitting that probably around 3,000 to 3,500 feet. So I take a little slice of this storm, also looking for the potential for any embedded hail in there. It's got some decent height to it. Looks like it's coming in at around 10, 15,000 feet for the most part, but really right there at 10,000 feet. We may have cloud tops that are a little higher. I'm not seeing anything in the way of hail in there. That's good news, but I will tell you this, there's a lot of lightning in there right now. As I go back to the home view on this, we can even see all the lightning strikes in and around that. So right now, tornado warning that is in effect. That is going to go until 8:15 this evening. So we got about another 24 minutes on that before it expires. But just moments ago, National Weather Service issuing another tornado warning. That's for Carroll, Gibson, Henderson, and Madison counties, just outside our coverage area. But let's go ahead and take a look at it. We're on our digital platform here, so folks that are in those areas can see us. And, well, let's put a track on it and show you where this is going. Right now, taking a look. I want to look closely at it and see, it looks like there may be a little rotation right here. There may be a little bit of an inflow notch. Can you see that little area right there? So we're moving off to the east. And again, there's a bowing segment right here. So I think where we've got that inflow of air coming here as it makes its progression to the east, we get that southerly flow coming in. There may be a little bit of rotation there. Let me see if we can pick something up on the scope. Just a moment. We're looking at velocity, basically, wind speed and direction. I think what that is, and I see a little something there, and Eric, check that out, but I think that may be a bit of a straight line wind just to the south of Medon. That is moving off, what is that, southern Madison County right there. So I think what we're looking at on that is, yeah, it looks like there may be just a little bit of rotation in. Let me bring it out one more time. Clear it out one more time. And then let's take another look at it here. And you see there's a little something it's just right there. It's that little area right there. Watching that closely, there may be a little bit of spin in there. Are you getting anything in the way of BTI on this, the tornado index?
Well,
is there a skit for that area?
Let's see.
And a skit, sometimes you'll see arrows on our maps. Those are storm center identification and track. That's what we call a skit. So oftentimes we can hit that and get some information from the storm that will give us an idea of the direction it's moving, how fast, the height of the storm, and what the potential for this storm to produce a tornado may be. What are you seeing, Eric?
So, Ron, we got 3 arrows that are in that general area, and all of them are under 3, and that's a good thing. Once we start talking about numbers that are into the 6+ range, that's when we have that potential of a tornado being on the ground here. And the good news is all 3 of those areas are 2.4, 2.6, and 2.8. So I don't think that we have anything on the ground, but with that said, if you know anybody that's around Jackson, Tennessee, really anywhere around that given area, good idea to give them a first alert and let them know that there's some pretty nasty storms on the way, and if they have the WMC First Alert weather app, they do know that there is that tornado warning that is in play for Madison County, and it does include also portions of Haywood as well as Hardeman counties here. Really small parts of it, but hey, it is still worthwhile to point that out as far as these warnings go here. So, Ron, I'm going to go drive it back down to the south here and see if we have anything going on with that other warned storm that is in northern Mississippi. And it still isn't really necessarily kind of catching my eye at this point.
You want to talk about what that pink pixel is there in the middle?
So that when you start seeing different things popping up on radar here and you start seeing some of these pinks, that does mean that we are starting to get a little bit of detection here of hail. And at least what we are depicting here some dime-sized hail, that is a possibility. Just to the north of Clarksdale, a little bit closer of a look here, just to the north of Dickinson, seeing some dime-sized hail potentially around the mid-south into this portion of Coahoma County. So nothing necessarily too big here, but at the same token, we still do have that tornado warning that is in play here for Coahoma County and a few other counties here across the Mid-South. And Ron, we've been kind of talking and looking at all these different storms in this given line of showers and storms moving itself from the west to the east here throughout the Mid-South, and we've had quite a few tornado warnings here throughout the Mid-South. Fortunately, we haven't had any sort of confirmation that there has been a tornado on the ground, but with that said, you still want to treat a tornado warning if it is in your county, in your city, in your general area, as if it was on the ground, so this way you don't get surprised by it. Best thing to do about that, put as many walls between yourself and the outside world. Get in that confined space, ideally into, say, like a bathroom. If you live in a two-story house, get into those lower levels, and keep in mind the different things that are above you as far as what's on that second floor. You don't want to put yourself safe. You have a refrigerator there in case it does fall through. That is certainly something you don't want landing near you or on top of you. Good idea to have a helmet or blankets, and make sure you have a pair of sneakers on as well, because when you do get those tornadoes, if you do unfortunately have a lot of damage here, that does result in having to walk over, say, nails or jagged wood, and that's certainly something you don't want to step on. So, Ron, getting an update here from the National Weather Service. out of Memphis, and they are noting that they are going to be dropping both the severe thunderstorm warning as well as that tornado warning that do include Coahoma County. So there is at least some good news within that.
Yeah, so it's a quick spin up, and that's what we're seeing, Eric. That's what we had talked about earlier this evening, and the potential for that as this line's moving on through. Look, we got some decent heating in there today, and I really thought that the rain was coming through stabilized the atmosphere. I think that is the case, but National Weather Service radar, they were picking up on a little rotation, and out of just caution, issuing the tornado warning, but it is not confirmed. There has been no visual confirmation of it, but I can tell you there's been a lot of lightning, a lot of very heavy rain, looks like some small hail in there, and the potential for flooding is really the greatest threat. But along and east of that line, there is also the potential for some very strong straight line winds to come into play there. And taking a look at the spectrum width, and basically this is a look at turbulence within the atmosphere, you can see that yourself, can't you? We're looking for areas that are orange, red. That's where the greatest turbulence is occurring. We've got warm air rising, cold air sinking in close proximity to each other. And look at that, a very well-defined line right there. Let's see how that matches up with velocity as we're looking at wind that is moving away from the radar and toward the radar. And check this out. We are seeing, you can almost see it right here. This little area right there, that is where we are seeing the potential for some straight line wind, and that is moving off to the east. So we're watching that. It's now making its way into Marshall County. That is just beginning to push into, or just to the east of Highway 55 in Panola County. That's going to move on through Oxford. So that's what we're looking at there. I know that's a convoluted thing. Flooding is a big issue. We've got the warnings to the north, down to the south. A lot to see on here, but really the one thing I wanted to point out most importantly is the area right here where we've got the warning in place, but we've also got a very well-defined line of strong wind coming into play. So and I tell you what, let's just put a track on the wind itself. I'm going to track that line of strong wind to the east. So Sardis about 8:02, you can see a strong gust of wind come through there. Holly Springs 8:13, into Gilton at about 8:18, then Ashland 8:29, Oxford 8:41. We'll see it move into Hickory Flat at about 8:48, not 8:57 into Ripley, 9:07 it will move into Bluff and then continue to march to the east. Again, we're still dealing with the tornado warning that is back here in Coahoma, Tunica, and Quitman County. It clips a portion of Tate County, but the National Weather Service now, did they let that expire? They did, didn't they?
So, Ron, on my system over here, it was able to be dropped, and obviously great news between both that severe thunderstorm warning as well as that tornado warning. We still do have that tornado warning that is off to the east here, and it does include Jackson, as well as small portions of Hardeman County, as well as Haywood County. So that is still something we're keeping an eye on here. But at least the good news is throughout Coahoma County, Phillips County, Quitman County, Panola, as well as Tate and Tunica counties, that has been able to be dropped now. And actually, there you go. The tornado warning that had been in place that included Jackson County, Ron, was able to be dropped. So from what I can see right now, while we still do have plenty of flash flood warnings in place, and those are in place through 10 o'clock, 10:15 this evening here, we are at least free of seeing those severe thunderstorm warnings as well as those tornado warnings around the Mid-South.
Yeah, so again, shifting to a straight line wind event and a flooding event, but we still have to remain diligent. As a matter of fact, Storm Prediction Center expanding the tornado watch into Middle Tennessee now as this storm system moves in that direction. But it remains until 10 o'clock tonight for West Tennessee in the Action News 5 coverage area and northern Mississippi. So we have to continue to watch this closely. But as Eric mentioned, flooding is a big issue with this, and we're already getting some flooding video in. Jayla, I think we have some video to show. Can you tell me where this is? Okay, so this is South Willette and Lamar. All right, in South Memphis, or closer to Midtown, excuse me. So that's the underpass right there at Willette and Lamar. That area typically floods even in a decent rainfall, but you get heavy rain and it can be a little bothersome there. So look, take your time. If you're going to be driving in that area, just take it slow going through. That water's deep. You can see that car coming through there. It is deep out there, so be very careful. We still have crews out in the field coming up on Action News 5 at 10 tonight. We're going to talk more about these storms that are moving on through. Again, becoming more of a straight line wind event. I want to put a couple of tracks on here, and then we're going to take a moment and regroup, and then just take a look at, get prepared for Action News 5 at 10. Eric's going to check in a moment with power outages for you, but let me zoom in and put some tracks on this activity to give a first alert to folks in northern Mississippi. What's coming your way? I'm going to move this over just a little bit, and then I'm going to zoom in just a little tighter as well, because I really want to focus on this area right there. And that is from the Mississippi-Tennessee state line and a little farther to the south. But I want to make sure I get Oxford in there. So let's put a track on this entire line. And look how linear that's become. I mean, that's really starting to become linear. I want to watch that little inflow notch right there in northern Marshall County. But as I move that off to the east, and let's just go ahead and track it on through to the Alabama state line. So Holly Springs, that's coming through at 8:12. You're about 10 minutes before the heavy rain, the strong gust of wind hits you. Abbeville, 8:27. Then we'll see it move into Oxford at 8:36. Right around Ripley at 8:52. New Albany, it's coming in there at 9:06. We'll see it move into Corinth at 9:15 and Boonville at 9:27. Now, taking a look at what's going on in West Tennessee and the activity moving through there, we've almost got it out of our coverage area. Madison County is outside of our DMA, and I do want to track it, however, for Hardeman County and McNairy County. Let me put a track on here, show you what's going on there and when this is going to move on through. And I'm just going to do a due east track with this. Bolivar, 8:06. Henderson, 8:25. Middleton, 8:32. Selmer, 8:46. And then we'll move into Morris Chapel at 8:53, Savannah 9:10, Nixon 9:17, and into Sandy Creek Subdivision at 9:13. So for West Tennessee, this storm is going to be out of here just after 9 o'clock. The Action News 5 coverage area in West Tennessee will be in the clear and just dealing with rain. Then you get into northern Mississippi. It's going to last a little longer, taking us right around 10 o'clock for the most part before it finally moves out. But again, this storm becoming more linear, starting to make a push to the east. Straight line winds are going to be the main concern with this storm as it continues to push to the east, but there's also a lot of lightning in that. So just be very, very careful, and also keep in mind power outages could be an issue as a result of that. And Eric, I think you've even got to look at some power outages as a result of these storms that have already moved through, huh?
Yeah, Ron, without a doubt, and kind of interesting how you said with that inflow notch that is into the northern portion of Marshall County. I think that's definitely want to keep an eye on here, at least for the next little bit. But nonetheless, we do have some power outages here that are across the Mid-South. Still looking at about 900 customers here in Tucahoma County, 600 customers in Shelby County, 100 customers in Tunica County, and 100 customers into Lauderdale County. So that number is a little bit smaller than what we saw earlier, especially for Shelby County. And Ron, some good news is too, the National Weather Service are talking about that they are going to cancel that tornado watch for Lauderdale, Tipton, Shelby, DeSoto, and Tunica County. So all those counties that do parallel the Mississippi River at about 8:15 or so. So that's in the matter of about 10 minutes. So that's certainly a great thing to see.
Yeah, indeed. And again, the main threat now for severe weather is along and east of this line. So really, as I draw this line right here, let me try that one more time. It didn't want to work with me. So that line, if you are west of that line, this area right here, your severe weather threat is over. If you're east of that line, I want you to stay weather aware, as the potential for additional warnings could be possible. But that line quickly moving off to the east. It is packing a punch with some heavy rain along the leading edge of it, and it's also bringing with it a lot of lightning along that leading edge. So that could be an issue with power outages. We can't rule out the potential for a quick spin up. Eric, I was looking at that little area that was just north of Holly Springs moments ago. There looked like there was a little inflow notch in there, and you can almost see it right there. There's a little bit of a bowing segment to the north of it. And here's what I'm talking about. You see that little bow that's right there? Let me pan down just a little bit with this and bring that whole thing into play. So what we've got is this little bowing segment. In other words, this portion of the storm is getting out ahead of the main line. Here is the main line itself coming into play, and you get down there on the southern portion of that bow echo, you can get what we call a bookend vortice, and that can create a little spin up, and on radar, look like a tornado. And oftentimes, and sometimes, not often, but sometimes it can drop a quick spin up. But right now, as I take a little look at this to see, using the scope, that's a straight line wind that we're seeing right there. I don't see any significant rotation with it whatsoever. And then just taking a look at the northern portion of that bow echo, because we can see it to the north as well, you can almost see right there, little bow. Then we would typically look in this area right here, just to the north of that bow, for a little something to come into play. But right now, as I take a look at that, I don't really see anything in there. So I think we're in good shape. And my radar doesn't want to work with me. You've got a pretty good view of it, and you've even got a skid over there too. What are you looking at?
So, yeah, Ron, you know, I got to say, Chief Meteorologist Ron Childers, it has been a pleasure just kind of watching you in action here in hand. I know this isn't
toys, right?
This isn't your first rodeo, and you know how Ron was just talking about here, some of the different things that we are keeping an eye on. There is that one storm that had been tornado warned here that is in Madison County. Fortunately, it's not moving into the Mid-South, but it's still something we're keeping an eye on here. The tornado index number on that is a 3, and that is it's a lower number. It's not 0, obviously, but once that number starts to climb above 6, that's when it really starts to get our attention here. But we will take that, especially since it is moving away from the Mid-South here. But if you know anybody that maybe they spent the day in Nashville and they're traversing back towards the Mid-South, it's going to be a pretty nasty ride here, especially once they approach the Tennessee River, Kentucky Lake, that general area. That's going to be pretty nasty from there to the west here around the Mid-South. What do we got going? That's a broad statement. We got a new severe thunderstorm warning in place, but I'm curious as to where they're going to put it out. The National Weather Service noted that it's going to be areas south of the current severe warned storm. And I'm going to assume they mean the area that's further to the north here towards Tennessee.
It's Madison County.
Okay,
yeah,
that's what I figured.
It's Madison County,
Gotcha.
And that's along and east of the Tennessee River.
Yep.
So they're moving it in that direction.
Right.
So
I just
it
wanted
is
to make sure it
outside
wasn't
our
going to be for that
coverage area.
Coahoma storm again, because that was going to get my attention here. But Ron, I think as you said, the biggest thing to kind of keep an eye on right now is going to be just those little vortices that pop up here with some of those winds that are crisscrossing each other.
Yeah, and we're not letting our guard down by
Right.
any means. We've still got a handful of counties, or a bit of the coverage area, as a matter of fact, still under a tornado watch, although they're about to drop the counties that border the Mississippi River. So that's Lauderdale, Tipton, Shelby, likely DeSoto, Tunica, and Coahoma counties as that moves on through. The line itself continuing to push off to the east, really just becoming a rainmaker. We still got a handful of counties we're keeping an eye on: Lafayette, Marshall, Benton, Tippah, Alcorn, McNairy, and Hardeman County, but things are looking up there. We'll continue to watch it, and of course we'll keep you updated on the air, on the web, and on the First Alert weather app. But right now, no active warnings inside the Action News 5 coverage area. So Eric and I are going to take some time to regroup. We're going to get ready for Action News 5 at 10, which will come up on Action News 5 right after the Saturday Night Live 50 special going on this evening. We'll have a recap of what's come through the area this evening and throughout the day today. We hit 73 degrees in Memphis. Did we make it to 74, Eric?
I believe we did.
Okay.
I don't know that for a fact, but I
we pushed
believe
into
we
the
did.
mid-70s, and it got really warm really quickly. But now I want you to get ready for some bitter cold that's going to be coming into the area. And we're going to get our first shot of that tonight, with temperatures falling in the 30s and only topping out near 40 tomorrow. So we're going to spend most of the day in the 40s, and we've got even colder temperatures next week, with overnight lows that will dip right around the low to mid-range of the teens. And we're going to see the potential for some more wintry weather coming into play for Tuesday night and on into early Wednesday morning. So we're going to take a look at the new data that's coming out within the next few minutes, and we'll share that with you. So now our look ahead and main focus will be for what's coming next week. But we're not finished dealing with this yet. We'll watch it, and if the need be, we'll come back to you on the air and on our digital platforms here. We want to thank you for joining us tonight, and keep that First Alert weather app handy. And by the way, if you're watching us on the weather app or on our Facebook page or our website, I encourage you to download the Roku of the Action News 5 app on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV. We're everywhere. So you can find Action News 5 on YouTube as well. So many ways to get information and so many different ways for us to continue to track the weather and allow you to still enjoy your primetime programming on NBC. So it's a night of double screening it with Saturday Night Live